Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I have roll call, please?
Counselor Blevins.
Here.
Counselor Dolzall.
Here.
Counselor McElroy.
Here.
Counselor Metcalf.
Here.
Counselor Prokop. Here. Counselor Tenbush.
Here.
Mayor Drinkwine.
Here, thank you very much, Taryn. Okay, we are at the first citizen and community group comment. I have one form. Are there any that would like to be turned in prior to this?
Looks like there's some more circulating out there.
I'll just start with the first one and then we'll go on from there. Okay, Jim Moriarty.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and city councilors. My name is Jim Moriarty, and I'm here in front of you this evening discussing speed cushions, not speed bumps or speed humps on Southeast Oakview Lane. I implore you that if you decide not to approve the speed cushions as a secondary traffic measure on Southeast Oakview Lane due to the slope, please consider lowering the speed limit to 20 miles an hour on our street. We both have a curve in the middle of the street and a hill on a street, and 25 miles an hour is too fast. We are here pleading a safety issue in our neighborhood. For example, if I'm backing up my driveway, car cresting the hill has approximately 1 second to react to my vehicle backing up. Other neighbors have also had to accelerate their vehicles back into their driveways in order to avoid a collision. I have one question for Public Works of the council in regards to the recent or both of the last speed studies on Oakview. Was there any information collected for uphill speeds on Southeast Oakview Lane? Thank you for the opportunity to discuss that this evening. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All right. All right. Heather Boone.
Thank you. I'd like to read an excerpt from my March 4th, 2025 email to City Manager Wagner, which was at my request forwarded to Mayor Drinkwine and all city council members, where I also requested responses and action items, of which I've only received a response from City Manager Wagner that didn't really even come close to addressing my concerns. 3 minutes is not long enough to cover all of those concerns, so I'll focus my time tonight on the dismantling of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. As a recent applicant to one of the vacant positions on the committee, I feel very strongly that towns such as ours, with populations historically comprised of the dominant race and culture, have been notorious in the region for pervasive racism, need access to education, and to be encouraged to be compassionate to those that may not look, worship, celebrate, have abilities, love, and/or vote like them. You see, we no longer live in a time where we are guided by the golden or platinum rule or even the 10 commandments to be kind and care for our neighbors. If it were, then perhaps we wouldn't have needed the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in the first place, because people would lead with compassion and being inquisitive about differences rather than weaponizing othering. The 5-person majority on council have made it clear where they stand without actually offering a clear explanation of what part exactly of diversity, equity, or inclusion they are opposed to. They are hiding behind acronyms and regurgitating national rhetoric without providing substance or presenting facts. This committee was not responsible for hiring initiatives the way diversity, equity, and inclusion protocols and programs work in private or public industry. So the weak attempts at saying that we were at risk of losing funding and going against federal directives are a stretch at best, and at worst, fear-mongering. Also, it does not look good for council that the committee came to an agreement to change the name to Better Together, and yet that business never came to a vote in council. Action that would have helped distance the committee from painfully ignorant notions of some of our citizens and the even more ignorant statements by some of the members here on council. Had that action been taken, we likely would not have left the passionate volunteer committee members susceptible to this backlash, because it would have been made clear that this is at heart a community outreach committee, and that that would have been much more difficult to vilify. There seems to be zero attempt to understand the diverse people who call this area home, or to combat the disgusting discrimination and threats that people make now openly, mostly on social media platforms hosting local groups, and instead think that the lived experience of citizens can't possibly be true because you are presenting a predominantly white cis-het reality, and you have lived in so much privilege that you have not experienced what our citizens have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, do I have any online? No? Okay,
Any other ones?
I don't see any other ones. All right. That's the end of the first citizen and community group comment. There'll be one more towards the end. We have the consent agenda. You've all had a chance to read over the consent agenda. Do I have any questions, or would you like to move anything to business, council business? Okay, can I get a motion on the floor, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We are now on department and committee reports. Melanie?
Okay, no committee reports, or do you want me to just start?
Well, yeah, we can do committee reports. Has anybody met with their groups? Would like to comment on it?
Traffic and safety has a lot, but they have people that want to join their committee. So are we going to vote on, when are we going to vote on that?
At the next, it'll be at the next council meeting when all of the new appointments take place. And then the terms start April 1st.
Okay.
So I'm glad they have a lot of applicants. Good.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would just like to reiterate that the struggles that the school is facing with trying to solve for capacity, just to keep that fresh on everybody's mind. It is an issue, and it's something that we need to be looking at. It doesn't pertain to the city specifically, but as the liaison to that board, it's something that needs to be on people's radar.
Thank you. Anybody else? Jerry?
Yeah, downtown Estacada Commission met, and they're ramping up towards Uncorked at the end of May, the last Saturday in May, I believe it's the 31st. And then the Arts Commission has Arts at the Creek, I believe, is the that weekend also, but no. Yeah, but they're just ramping up towards their events that are coming up. I'll get dates, exact dates by the next meeting, but yeah, but the May 31st Uncorked is going to be a big thing. So they're really excited about it.
Okay, thank you. Melanie?
Okay. All right. So did you want to say anything first? I'll start. Okay, I will start. I have a well, it's 4 slides, but 2 slides of information tonight. And first of all, I want to talk about a road closure that is upcoming. So it's hard to see on there. Hopefully if people are reviewing this later or looking at it at home, that's a picture of Eagle Creek Road. And as it comes into town, turns into, if you're going down, it would turn into Wade Street. And there will be a water line and stormwater line installation going on along there. It's going to affect Eagle Creek Road between River Mill Road and Deuce Road. So River Mill Road that goes down to the highway, and then Deuce that goes up to the new developments. And we've tried to find a way around any way to do it. You saw, I think if you travel that road, you saw when the sewer line was going in and it was over on the edge of the road. So it didn't necessarily impact traffic that much, but this is going to be actually taking up the lane. So between River Mill and Deuce, it will be local traffic only. And it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So I'm going to say 4 weeks because you never know what you're finding when you start working under the ground. They're going to get it done as fast as they can. There will also be some flagging. That lower green line is between Campanella and River Mill Road. And we discussed whether we have to close that. That's really inconvenient to close because then people have to come downtown. So at this point, and the plan going forward is that there'll be some flagging between Campanella and River Mill Road going north out of town. They'll get that done and open that so that you're not having to wait, while you're late for where you're going if you travel like I do. And then they'll be working as fast as they can to get also through that upper section. So it could take a month, and they're going to start that in 1 or 2 weeks. They'll be contacting school district, Sandy Metro, TriMet, police, fire, making all the contacts so that everybody knows. But I just wanted to get that out there because I know it's going to be inconvenient. In a couple of years, we'll be doing improvements to that River Mill Road and Eagle Creek Road intersection. And again, it'll cause some inconvenience then, but we'll try to, give people a heads up. And in this case, hopefully get through it as quick as possible. All right, next slide, please. And I just wanted to call this out because Estacada is celebrating 120 years. This is a temporary little logo emblem just for this year. But I just wanted to make sure people are watching for special events, projects, and exhibits that are going to go on throughout the year to celebrate Estacada's history. There's a lot of history in the last 120 years. And so a lot of the events, they might be our every year events, but they'll have a nod to our 120 also. So you can go to cityofestacada.org, you scroll all the way to the bottom of that homepage, and there's a button that says subscribe to notifications. And when you click that, you can sign up for events and calendar items from different committees so that when anything gets posted, you'll get notified. That's a good way to keep up on what's going on. So, and is there any questions?
No, any questions for Melanie? Nope, you're good.
Okay, Peter.
So we heard back from Portland State regarding our appeal. They requested more information on an extremely tight timeline, but staff really prioritized this. We were able to get them the information that that they needed. And again, it's we think they're underestimating the number of people in households. We think they're overestimating the quote vacancy rate, which are homes that are not people's primary residence. And we think they're quite low on the across all demographics. So we have pretty strong evidence of this. I want to see what the response is to our appeal. Staff's been reaching out to staffs in other cities who have been also experiencing things. There's one city where they just didn't count any of the new multifamily construction that occurred there. And so it seems like, this is a problem well beyond us. And, depending on how our appeal goes, I think we're going to be going to the legislature either way. But I don't want to go down to Salem until after they've made the determination, because not that I would anticipate anyone would do anything punitive, but I don't want to take any chances either. So I think that the reason it matters is because our state shared funds are based off of our population. All the federal ARPA funds were based off of population numbers, other state funds. So if they're underestimating our population, we're not getting our fair share of those dollars. And for a fast growing city like Estacada with a relatively low tax base, those dollars can be critical.
Thank you. Any questions for Peter? No? Hey, thank you.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right. We're now entering council business. First on that is Civics Academy graduation. You could
You
sit,
can
get
sit.
comfortable.
Oh, it sounds like it's on.
Is it on? No, okay, sorry.
Sounds-
Haven't used this before, guys.
Sounds like it's on. Tap the microphone.
Okay,
You're good.
I think it's working.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can just talk louder. All right, so hello, everyone, council members, mayor, everybody else who's joined us, more people than I expected. My name is Ellie White. I am currently a Rare AmeriCorps serving with the City of Estacada as the Outreach and Engagement Coordinator. And one of my biggest projects for this year was to put together and facilitate the City of Estacada's first iteration of Civics Academy. This program will be offered annually going forward with the goal of giving program participants insight into how local government works, who's in city leadership, and how they can become involved. The program meets once a week for 6 weeks to learn about topics ranging from public works to economic development to involvement in public art. Each week, sessions were led by different city staff members with assistance from committee chairs during their involvement sessions. In addition to the standard sessions, this year we were also able to offer an additional Meet Your Reps lunch attended by local elected officials, including Mayor Drinkwine and Representative Christine Drazen and program participants. This was a great session where they were able to do a meet and greet and Q&A on some of the issues they're most passionate about and seeing how they're being worked on at both the local and state level. This was an opportunity I was really excited to put together in addition to the program we were already offering. And now that we have wrapped up the first year of this program, I would like to call it a success and celebrate the participants who joined us. Not only did participants surveys let us know that they felt more informed and more motivated to get involved on issues they cared about in the community, but city staff also got to learn more about residents' vision and priorities for the future of this community. And we have even had several program participants apply for city committees and commissions already to continue their involvement. So I'm pretty proud of that immediate involvement and results. Now, if there are any of this year's participants in the room tonight, I would love for us to gather at the front of the room so I can share your certificates with you. I know there's at least a couple.
Bring the mic with you.
All right. Perfect. Thank you guys so much for coming and for participating the last 6 weeks. I know your time is valuable and we made it on a weeknight, so. John, you too. Sorry, I pulled up your certificate.
You did a great job.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Now, yes, we wanted to get a photo and I want to read my last little closing statement, everyone. I wanted to thank you all who participated, whether you're here tonight or not, for being a part of this program, for letting us use you as our guinea pigs for this program and giving us your valuable feedback so we can make it better for future community residents. Thank you for the staff who presented and shared their passion for what they do for this community, to participants who gave up one night of their week to come learn and connect with other community members. It was such a pleasure to get to know you all better and to see the community through your eyes, as I am very new to it. And I know that city staff look forward to getting to know more of you in next year's Civics Academy. So I hope some of you will join us next year.
Thank you. Quite a great group that came out for that. And so I'm glad that some of you were able to come tonight. We really did enjoy. It was a lot of fun. It's fun talking about, what goes on at the city and helping people understand there's some method behind what seems to be madness at times. And I think that hopefully they learned a lot, and it was great to get to know them better. So.
Yeah. And
Thank
I'm
you.
just glad you all got involved.
Yeah.
Because now I can look forward to seeing your faces out there making policy, doing what's right. So thank you for what you did.
And thank you to Ellie. It was fantastic.
Yeah, Ellie,
Yes.
you did a great job. Okay, we're on the next item, ordinance 2025-002, an ordinance amending Title II of the Estacada Municipal Code.
All right, these are updates to Title II that cover a variety of issues that the council had previously directed us to make in Chapter 2 of the code. And so this is the first time coming back as an ordinance to formalize those decisions that were made both at the council goal setting. There was a recommendation, and then at the last meeting, there was a vote. And so this is the ordinance. It'll come to you this time for a vote. And then if it passes, it'll come back again one more time, and then it goes into effect 30 days later.
Okay. Great. You've seen the motion. Can I get a motion on the floor?
I move to approve the Title II code updates.
Second.
Give it to Matthew. And let's do a roll call vote on this, please.
And any comments?
Discussion, please.
Yeah, discussion. We can have discussion. Would anybody like to discuss it now that it's on the floor?
I just have a comment. So last meeting I was asked to, we were asked to remove our bias, our personal bias, but, I don't believe that that happened. So my personal bias, I want to explain it, is based on this community and what this community wants and what this community deserves. That's the bias that I brought into it, where it seemed like there was a lot of national bias that was brought into this that had absolutely nothing to do with our community. And I would just like the council to remove that national bias, which has nothing to do with what this committee has done or plans on doing before this decision is permanently made.
Anybody else?
Well, I think you guys all know where I stand. I'm in agreement with Jerry. I don't think that we should be removing the DEI. I think we should be restructuring it. So once this vote goes, and it will, I hope you all will agree to make a new outreach committee.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, vote is on the floor. We have a first and a second. Let's do roll call on this, please.
Counselor Blevins,
Disband.
Is the motion yes?
That's
yes. Yes to this.
Yes to
Yeah.
approve the ordinance, which includes that directive from the
Oh.
council.
Yes.
Counselor Dolzall,
Yes.
Counselor McElroy,
Yes.
Counselor Metcalf,
Yes.
Counselor Prokop,
No.
Counselor Tenbush,
No.
Mayor Drinkwine,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. Next on the list, I have the speed bump discussion. I will let you take that over. No.
Okay, I'm gonna hand it right back to you because the purpose of the report that's included in the packet is to provide reference points for policy exceptions or how to set policy and to get direction from the council on whether there should be an exception made for the slope on Oakview Lane. Specifically, that's the road in question right now. So I just ask that you would review. We have the speed data that we've collected. Once again, we've gotten better equipment, and it does gather uphill and downhill traffic at the same time. And then it also calculates what the 85th percentile of the speed was, and it shows you the highs and lows. So it provides quite a lot of information. And then in the staff report, I also have information about what some other cities, what their requirements are and which ones rely on that 85th percentile. That was pretty interesting to look into. And then, my question is for you to provide direction to staff on what to do with the specific request for Oakview Lane. And then also when an exception request should be brought to council, because if staff felt like, by following the standards and policies that we weren't able to solve a problem and we had, okay, this is kind of outside the box, but we, if we had some kind of a reference point to say this would probably work, we'd bring that to you anyway. But is there other situations where you want us to bring exception requests? If that's the direction we want to go and do an exception, but I'll answer questions if I can, but pretty much the data I gathered is in that report.
Okay, great. Questions?
Was it both directions, uphill and downhill?
It was both directions.
Any other questions?
Are we against the consideration of looking at the flat spot and putting a speed cushion or a speed hump in the flat spot if we didn't do it on the inclined portion? I mean, I'm not against Mr. Moriarty came up earlier and he said a 20-mile-an-hour request as well. I mean, I agree that we should have something in play for the neighborhoods that do want to mitigate traffic, that even if it's not a speed hump, right? I mean, we talked about alternative methods as well, so what are the considerations? Is anybody open to that? I mean, as far as the flat spot is concerned on hills, because I mean, we would need to look, I think outside of Oakview with this as well, to be frank, right? We got Fourth that's aggressive. We got going up Cascadia Ridge. Cemetery, thank you. Yep. So I mean, there's a lot of other portions with this as well, and I think that we need to look to solve something, right? We can't just, oh, it's too steep, we can't do anything. That's not the answer, I don't think. My personal opinion.
So you're looking for some other type of
Well,
speed control?
It sounds like, Melanie, I just want to clarify, from what you're asking, you need us to decide, are we looking at, are we willing to make an exception?
Mhm,
And then if not, two,
mhm.
what direction for speed mitigation options?
Right,
Is
right.
for
and-
clarity, correct?
Yes, and there are other options. We could put, if the main concern is uphill, especially, you know, we could put the sign whichever way, but we could put a radar feedback sign. So it lets people know, hey, you need to slow down, but the 85th percentile speed was 23 miles per hour, and the max speed on that hill was one car that went 31 miles an hour. And so it's right that it's within the range.
Is that going
It's-
uphill
yeah.
and downhill? or-
yes, uphill and downhill. Yep.
I'm all for looking at changing the speed limit down to 20 if we have the authority to do that. It sounded like at the last meeting you mentioned that we can. But if another project comes up and someone wants something done on their street, I just want to make sure that we're evaluating them with some sort of structure, like the 85th percentile being 5 miles over the speed limit. If that's a triggering event that the other cities are using, whatever the number is, I'm okay with adjusting it to whatever you guys think is good, but I think we should apply it to all of them equally. Because inevitably, if we put a speed mitigation device here and then a month from now, another community member comes in because they feel that speeding is happening on their street and it doesn't meet we don't have a criteria to weigh it against. Which projects are we going to choose to prioritize over the others if we don't have a baseline for it? So I just think we should come up with a number that we want for the 85th percentile. If it's not 5 miles over, if it's 3 miles over, and then apply that to the speed report data that we get back and then use that in our decision making. And I'm all for reducing the speed to 20 on the road.
I like I would like to give the speed cushion on that road, on that particular road, a shot. I like the idea. It's not an extreme speed hump like we have on Shafford. The speed cushion is longer and shorter. But you definitely know that you're hitting it. I would like to see a speed cushion on that road. I travel that road a couple of times a week, and I'm a 20-mile-per-hour driver, so I try to slow speed down that way, but I would definitely like to see that. And the one thing that we have, we get all this data, this data that's factual, but the people that live there, it's their perception. Their perception is their reality. So if they feel like people are speeding, on their street, then I mean that's their perception, and that's their reality. So we get these numbers, and they're 23 to 26 miles per hour. That's a lot different when you're trying to back out of your driveway. The perceived speed is a lot different. It hits you differently than just standing there watching cars go up and down when you're actually trying to get out into traffic or trying to get out onto the road. So I would like to take that into consideration as much as the actual data. It's their lives, it's their neighborhood, and it's their perception, which is their reality. So hope that some of that made sense.
Yeah, no, good. Peter?
Yeah, so we could certainly lower the speed limit to 20 and see if that could help. We did reach out to CIS to see what the implications would be of doing this on a slope that exceeds, you know, the standards, it does pierce kind of our sovereign immunity. It does make it more likely that they would settle a case, that they would pay out. So that doesn't mean that there aren't instances that will be warranted for putting a traffic calming device in a spot. It's just we need to demonstrate that we have clear and objective evidence and that we're applying it consistently so that people would have some predictability. Other people, I mean, there are a lot of hills in Estacada. So yeah, we have the data that we had. I think that it wasn't data that people anticipated because, as Councilor ten Bosch said, there is a perception of speeding that just wasn't borne out by the data. We could move it to 20 and then test again and see if that slowed people down or what the 85th percentile will be on that. From a legal risk perspective, it might make sense to do that first and see if we can do that without apparatus. Because if we were to put apparatus on that road with these numbers, where people are going under the speed limit, it would really negatively impact your ability to say no to a future project where also drivers were driving under the speed limit. I mean, it's just, when we looked at it, that where cities really can defend this is if it's a high speed. If people are really exceeding the speed limit, they've tried other things, nothing worked, then they put this in. And those cities, you know, they've got a kind of a strong factual record that supports it. And that then helps mitigate if someone has like launches their car or what have you, the city can say, well, we had tried everything else, nothing else worked. So, you know, there was from a public safety purpose, that it was safer to have this than to not have it because people were going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. So I think just from a legal risk perspective, if there's council interest in doing 20 miles an hour, that we would try that first. And then if we want to measure the traffic speed data after changing the speed limit, we could measure again. And again, that's, you know, I'm just trying to kind of troubleshoot through all the various factors and advise you on legal risk.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm gonna have to go with Jerry on this one because of the way that road is set up. It's kind of determined by who's living on that road, and there's a lot of driveways on that road. If they're already going 23 to drop the speed limit down to 20, I mean, it'll maybe make a small difference, but a physical, you know, structure there that helps slow them down. And the difference between, say, Oakview and Fourth is where people actually pick up the most speed on Fourth is the steepest part, and there's no roads other than Oakview going into it until they hit the little choke point there. And once we get sidewalks in there, it'll help mitigate a lot of the issues people are having. So I think a physical speed cushion should be put in.
Okay, great.
Question.
yeah.
Speed humps typically, or the speed cushions, you're supposed to be able to drive over those at 20 to 25 miles an hour. And they're slowing you down to that speed. If people are we wanting, we're talking about slowing people down. Are we wanting these to be like when you're going in a parking lot and you have to like go like 5 miles an hour over them? And that, I mean, are we talking about slowing cars down like that on the street? Or if we're talking about the speed cushions, they typically, if you're driving 20, you can go right over those speed cushions because that's what they're meant for. They're meant, like if people are driving 30 through someplace and the speed limit's 25, they should just bring it down a little. And then once you're going, you know, over those speed tables at the appropriate speed. So how slow do you think people should really go on this road?
Well, I think that driving over it, you notice it, you know you're on it. And I think if we reduce the speed to 20 and put a speed cushion, you know, on that road, I think, you know, between the two, we're going to at least partially accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, you know. But like I said, once you start going on the speed cushion, it's noticeable, you know, you're there.
Mhm.
So I like the idea of, I really like the idea of the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. And then, you know, I would like to, you know, consider doing a speed cushion in the best possible place on that road.
And I think I'm with Jerry and Matthew. Starting the process is the key here. We have neighborhoods all over the city. Mine, I'm off of Mountain View, and Mountain View has speed signs that say 25 miles an hour. And people go flying down that 35, 40 miles an hour, no matter whether there are signs there or not. So the idea that signs are even going to make a difference at this point, the way people drive, I really don't think it's going to. I think we have to start the process in our city for speed humps in order to slow down traffic overall. It's the only way we're going to slow down traffic. I mean, we got speed signs all over the city, and I see people speeding all over the place. We don't have any now. I mean, Shafford is our only street that has speed bumps. I think the conversation needs to happen, and we need to start the process to slow down traffic. We are more and more children in the roads, more and more houses that back up to those roads. It just makes sense that we start that. So my preference would be that we go and look at a speed hump right there at the base of the hill. I think it's time. I think our city has to develop a new thought pattern with the amount of people we have, the amount of children we have, and this is the time to do it. And I think it makes sense for our people who are disadvantaged, getting across the road and walking around. It's going to be safer all the way around. So I think the conversation needs to start. I think the process needs to start.
Mhm.
So I'm with both of them. So on this, Dozel?
If I read the data right, the speed limit is 25 and the 85 percentile was 23. So people were going under the speed limit. Having had my wit scared out of me backing out, I get it. And the particulars of the slope and that sort of thing. The only caution, it seems reasonable to start out with a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, hit it with the radar or whatever they use, because, and I don't know this, but what if people see that and then they go, 2 miles under that, and now they're at 18? Not saying that they would, but because this is an exceptional slope that we've talked about quite a bit. That seems like a reasonable approach instead of just going all in. If it was something else, 5% slope or something like that, it's a totally different conversation. But because this is so different, outside the norm, but we are looking for a solution. We've done a lot and gotten a good idea of a process for this, and I think just continuing the process, 20 miles per hour. And then get some more data so that, like Peter was saying, we've got some stuff behind us.
Like, to me, that would go back to Councilman McElroy's point, though. We would need to have an objective, right? Like, if we put 20 and we're measuring, is it the goal what then? To see 18, to see 20 on the dot? I mean, I'd like to, even not an area at a slope, right? Let's look at, like, I think about Reagan Hill. What's 25 miles an hour look like in Reagan Hill with all the vehicles parked along the side of it as well, with kids playing or whatever? What's 20 miles an hour even at that rate look like? I'd encourage you to try to go through the Thoroughway when on Broadway when Campanella Park has a family event or something going on and both sides of the roads are parked. What's 20 miles an hour look like then? What does 25 miles an hour look like then? Because the context of this, if we're considering kids and stuff like that, if we're going to use those examples, then we need to come up with an objective. What, to Councilman McElroy's point, what is the real number? What are we trying to get people to do? Are we saying 20, but our real goal is 10? If that's the case, then why don't we just start there? What is it that we're really trying to get to?
Well, I think our main goal is to slow the speed down, or I think a goal is to slow the speed down, but our main goal is to just get the complacency out, kind of keeping, you're paying attention. There's a speed bump coming up. You're gonna have to slow down. You got to pay attention, keep your eyes up, because we all got kids. I mean, kids are the biggest thing.
I don't disagree, but when someone say that lives on Cemetery or on Cascadia Ridge, like on one of the houses that's pulling off into that street, when they come, then what are we gonna say to them? That we're gonna first lower it to 20, or we're gonna put a speed bump? Like,
See, I think
what's
hopefully-
that's where I think if we're gonna do it, it needs to be, I agree with Councilman McElroy that I'm not saying that we don't make a move on this, but it needs to be, whatever we do needs to be uniform going forward on this.
So it's a good.
Yeah,
system-wide-
consistency is what I'm saying,
consistent and
period. Thank you for
system-wide.
that. Yes. I need consistency. I mean, I think that's what the community is gonna want too. They're not gonna want us jumping around on them.
Peter?
So legally this is on public roads, not on private roads. Private roads, people can do as they want,
Yeah.
but legally the slowest posted speed that we can do is 20. So we can lower it from 25 to 20. We could measure that impact, see if that's slowing people down further. I mean, it may have it. I always pay attention to the speed limit myself. And I notice where it's 20 and I, try and drive appropriately. Yeah, again, I think for processing future ones, it would be really helpful to have a data-driven, objective method that we can point to, as well as demonstrating that we tried other tools prior to doing this. Because if you were to move forward with this data where it shows they're going under the posted speed limit, then virtually any road where they want a speed cushion, it makes it really difficult for you to say, well, no, we're not going to put a speed cushion on this street, because again, the data that we have based on the current speed limit shows people going under. And when you look at the cities that have successfully done this, it's been, was it 10 miles an hour over?
I thought it was 5.
Oh, yeah, it's at least 5 over.
5 or more.
So you can do what you want. I mean, my job isn't to tell you what to do. It's just to inform you of legal risk. It's just there could be future collateral impacts of moving forward with this data.
Mike?
I-
Heidi?
Go ahead.
I was wondering about the 20. There's minor and major collectors. So like on Cemetery, that's a major collector now, I believe. And so I'm wondering what the speed limit is allowed to be there. And I know there's data on Cemetery. And so my preference would be the speed humps, but I am curious about
The state just breaks it down by like zones, by school zones, business
Mhm.
zones, residential zones. And so even though that one is a major collector, it's in a residential zone, so I would say that that would be
Right.
25. And I think that we can, if like my quick Google search, because I'm like, I don't know how we can do that. But apparently we can make it 5 miles an hour less, just as soon as we want to put up the signs. So
My recommendation would be to lower the speed limit to 20, put a radar feedback sign on the street so that the people that live on that street have a real feedback on what the speed is of the vehicles that are traveling on it. Set residential speed limits to the 85th percentile is 3 miles an hour over the speed limit in residential zones and 5% in all the other zones. And then make that the standard, the objective standard that we're applying to other streets that we're having issues with. And then that way, the residential areas where we'll have the most concern has a lower barrier for that traffic mitigation device. And other areas won't have that same impact, because you don't want to be applying the same standard for a residential area where you're worried about kids to a business district. And I think that would be a good solution, and then evaluate it. And if after that speed goes down to 20, you get a 3% over that are going 5 miles an hour over, or whatever. Is it 3% or it's 3 miles per hour? It'd be 3 miles per hour over in the residential and 5 miles per hour in all the other areas, and then that would be a good fix, I think. I think just the accountability of a car that's driving down that street, knowing that that's the concern of the residents, you'll at least be able to identify the neighbors that are doing it. If it's it's someone in the neighborhood that's doing the speeding, at least they're gonna be accountable. They're gonna be speeding right in front of their neighbors, and people are gonna go have conversations with them about it, because you'll have a real number. You're gonna see what they're doing. I think that would be a good place to start.
Okay, Jerry, you had something, and then John.
Yeah, I had a question about cemetery. I don't understand why Cemetery Road isn't considered to be a school zone. At least from the base of the hill down to the New Hill Way intersection. I think that should be part of the school zone, the 20 mile per hour during school hours. I mean, just because there's so many kids now that walk up that trail or walk, the Ranger Woods to get to, the new housing, that they live too close to be bused to and from. So, I think that cemetery should be part of the school zone speed and be knocked down to 20 during school hours.
I can see like how close to the school it has to be. That is backing up basically to school property, even though the school is not directly right there, but I can check on what that requirement would be. That could kind of, I think, fit a lot of the area of just basically our whole core of our city too.
To
Jonathan?
piggyback real quick off that, the other side, 20 miles probably should start around Big Jim's. Me and the traffic committee were walking around there yesterday. It starts right at the parking lot there where Planet Cup of Joe is. And on Broadway going into the elementary school has a lot of traffic and a ton of kids cross right there after school. So if we could maybe by Granny's of some sort,
There was a sign back by Granny's, unless it got moved.
I just saw the sign
There's multiple.
right at the easement way behind Big Jim's.
Okay, I think there's multiple signs over there. I'll double check because there used to be one. Actually, I think it was back by the vet clinic is how far where it said you're entering a school zone, but I'm not sure if it's still there. That was a while ago. We can check on that.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I would say like a question would be, how long would you want to like collect data if we were to go to the 20? Do we like check back in 90 days? And I mean,
Yeah.
what's the timeline?
What's the cost and how long is it gonna take to get a radar feedback sign up?
Good question. I don't know if we have one in stock. I know Don was trying to order some to have on hand and get those installed, but he kind of had locations where we're going to go, but I think we could, as soon as we could get one.
I would
I think
think
they're
30
like
30 days after the feedback sign is in place and the new speed limit signs are in place, 30 days after that, so that people have made an
speed,
adjustment to it,
okay.
I would think would be a good time frame for the speed study.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we've heard from everybody. That's kind of a mixed bag here. We've got about half and half. I think at this point, I think it's compromise. I think I have to ask myself, somebody's buzzing. Oh, okay. So I have to ask myself, it's a compromise. I mean, I think as we grow, speed bumps are going to be something we're going to have to look at. I know it's hard for everybody to think about. I don't see any less kids coming here. I don't see families not in the road. I mean, everywhere I drive now, I see people running, hiking, walking their dog, whatever. It's going to get more and more that way. And we're going to have to address the speed hump and bump situation. But as a compromise, I'm willing to compromise on the speed radars and the speed signs and see how that goes in some of the neighborhoods. I don't know how all the rest of you feel, but we need to give them direction going forward as to what they need to do. So how does everybody feel about that?
I think my opinion is if we do the 20 mile an hour for the legal mitigation purposes, my mind goes to 90 days, review it, with that data and then make a decision then determining going forward. I don't think we just leave it open though. I think there needs to be some resolve. I mean, would that be acceptable to you as an outcome, a 90-day, 20 mile an hour drop
We
it to
can't
20?
really address the audience
Sorry,
during
I
this,
mean,
but
in general, I think that that's something that that community might palate, is what I'm trying to say. I think that maybe that, I mean, they've took it this far. We could ask them to go a little bit further with us in the interest of protecting, you know, the taxpayers' dollars, quite frankly, in litigation.
So 90 instead of 30, is that what you're saying? Mike said 30 and you said 90, is that? Could we
So
compromise?
I'm okay with 30. I just thought you'd want a longer tenure, but 30
Yeah.
is fine as well.
Yeah.
I'm good. with
After
30.
everything's in place.
So what
Okay.
I'm hearing is lower the speed to 20 and put a radar speed sign up. When we get all those in place, at 30 days following, we'll do a speed test for a week and report back to you on how things are going.
With the thresholds, like he was talking about, like,
Yeah, I didn't, okay.
So
Yeah,
3
we
miles
can-
per hour in the 85th percentile for residential and 5 miles per hour in the 85th percentile for the rest of the areas. Well,
That sounds fair
school
enough.
as well, school and residential,
yeah.
and then not the business.
Okay,
Okay. So that's the direction.
okay. Fantastic.
Matthew, did you want?
Can I throw a small curveball in there? Well, not really, but are there temporary speed cushions? I know in construction sites, you could put in temporary speed bumps, traffic mitigation
There
of
are.
just about anything. Are there plastic, rubber?
There are, I've seen them in, like, online. I don't know how I don't know if they'd be as safe. I don't know what their safety rating is. I couldn't speak to that.
Cause-
I would have to look into
Cause
it.
I was thinking we could do 30 days with the 20-mile-an-hour speed test. If, depending on how that goes, put in a temporary speed cushion with the 20-mile-an-hour. If it doesn't work, I mean, I don't know. I'm still in
Okay.
agreement with, we need physical thing in there. So
Mhm.
I agree with you too, though.
Okay.
So
I think the
So
direction
we'll do a
should
test
be
run.
a
see if we
test
can-
run.
Test
See
run.
where we're at. There are traffic safety devices that you can get. Traffic Safety Supply down in Portland carries all those. I've seen them many times for neighborhoods that are more of a temporary basis
Mhm.
until you figure out. So if we do need to do some kind of test like that later at a later point, it would be something we could do, yes.
Okay.
But yeah, direction is the study first. Let's get this figured out and see how it works out, and then we'll go from there.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. See here, moving along. We are at citizen and community group comment for the second one. All right, I have 3 here. Let's see. Let's go with Shirley Burt first.
Okay, I've sat here and I've listened to all this stuff about Castledeer Heights, things, but what about Rivermill? Okay, Rivermill, we started this out on Rivermill because of the safety there. We need, when Eighth comes around the corner there and goes back on Broadway, people just come around that corner like crazy. Okay, there needs to be a speed hump there for sure. Because we've got cars parked angrily, we got cars parked on the side of the road, and it only takes one kid to run out between those cars. And I've stopped people, I mean, I pull over and make them stop and say, slow down. But also, I see all these safety factors at Clackamas, at the middle school, at the high school, all this safety stuff. There's not hardly any kind of safety stuff at Rivermill. I mean, we need a stop sign coming out of Campanella's on 10th and Broadway because people come out of there and they just speed right through this zone. And I know Jonathan's seen that before. And then also the other safety zone that we really need to get the speed bump and then bring that speed limit down to 15 miles an hour because that is a parking lot, technically. Rivermill, Broadway, 8th Street, technically is a parking lot all the time. No matter what time of day it is, when school's there, there's cars there. And then just to come around out of over to the park area, between the park and the library area, there either needs to be a crosswalk there with flashing signs or another speed bump because kids are coming. I mean, even when that splash pad gets open, there's gonna be twice as many kids crossing that road. And the senior citizens cross that road to get to the bus or get to the Wade Creek. And I've seen a senior citizen almost get hit because somebody comes speeding through there. But my deal is fix River Mill grade school. It just seems like it's tossed in the back of the group. I mean, you need safety there. You've got kindergarten kids, the little kids, the kindergarten kids. My neighbor kid was going to school with his dad, went to go across the crosswalk there on 10th and Broadway and almost got hit. So River Mill was one of the main topics when we started these speed humps and stuff, and it just got pushed in the back. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Okay, Julie Battle.
I just heard good 40 minutes. Nice, logical talk about speed humps. And they're important. I'm not disregarding the physical safety of our citizens. I heard zero talk and back and forth regarding continuing DEIC in a different manner. And for the life of me, I cannot figure it out. When you voted, I pay attention to body language. Those of you who voted against, your head was down. You were clearly ashamed of that vote on some level inside. I heard the mayor say compromise at least 5 times on the speed limit. Where is that spirit of compromise when it comes to diversity and inclusion? You all took an oath. I'm pulling it right from the website to bring diversity and a strong community spirit with leadership that has a high level of integrity. Where the hell is that? Your vision says a strong sense of community safety and livability for all citizens, for the love of God and all things holy. Why can we not have a civil conversation about this like we do speed humps? I think I'm going crazy when I come to these meetings. And trust me, my career has taken me into 1,000 meetings across the globe. I have sat in 4-star generals' offices. I have sat in Madison Avenue. I have sat in meetings tinier than this, and I have heard more civil, logical compromise. I beg of you, do some internal searching. You cannot hold on to a discourse that is not meant for this tiny, precious town. Please, please, I ask you to go home. Many of you profess to be Christians. This is not Christian behavior. Reach out to all of your citizens, please.
Okay, Jim Maiarty.
Hello again. My name's Jim Moriarty. I'm the commander of the American Legion Post, Carl Douglas Post 74 here in Estacada. Want to give the city and its citizens a quick update on our events and programs for the 2025 season. We're getting several high school teams together in order to sponsor an American Legion baseball team this year. The team could possibly include Estacada High School, Gresham, and Sandy players. On March 11, tomorrow, Post 74 is participating in the Estacada High School Career Day. This high school event allows the Post to educate all grades to the several programs that the American Legion supports every year, including Boys, Girls State, American Legion Baseball, Oratorical Contest, and the Law Enforcement Career Camp. On May 26, Post 74 will have a Memorial Day breakfast at Oddfellows Hall. At these breakfasts, Cub Scouts, Post 186 Scouts take orders, serves coffee and juice, and serves all the orders to the citizens. This event is a fundraiser that allows us to help veterans within our community. A few days before Memorial Day, Post 74 veterans and scouts, Post 186, will place American flags at all 9 of our Estacada cemeteries, honoring Estacada American soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guard, to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice since the U.S. Civil War to the current global war on terrorism. In May, Post 74 will be awarding 4 $1,000 scholarships to 4 Estacada seniors. Please tell your kids and grandkids to put in for our scholarships this year. It's a true honor to give back to this community. On July 12th, Post 74 will have its 11th annual car show at Timber Park in Estacada. We will have many local food vendors and vendors like the B-17 Alliance Traveling Museum from Salem. This event allows local businesses to support 18 car show trophies that are made exclusively by veterans. On November 11th, Post 74 will have Veterans Day breakfast at Oddfellows Hall. All veterans will eat free, honoring all that volunteered to serve this great country. If you would like to join the American Legion, please see me after the meeting. Post 74 will pay for your first year of membership of $45. Thank you so much for the opportunity to update you on the events and programs for your local American Legion post. Thank you.
Okay, do I have any online comments? No. Okay. And we are at the mayor and council reports and comments, so I will start off with you, Matthew.
I think that the DEI is a big deal. There's a lot to unpack there. We could be in here for hours and hours and hours. I think we understand what's going on with that. And as far as the speed hump goes, I think we have a good idea on how we should go about doing that. Ultimately, our goal is to make this community safe and bring it together.
So a couple of things. One, regarding sidewalk vendors, my understanding is that we have a city code or city ordinance or something like that that prohibits that. And with that code, though, we continue to see the vendors. My understanding is that the sheriff has talked to them, but it still continues to happen. And I'm kind of an advocate of the broken window theory kind of thing, where if you continue to let these little things go, it can potentially grow. And so my question regarding specifically the sidewalk vendor is there potentially consequences, or can we make and I don't know what that is, taking probably couldn't do that, but I'm just looking for some way to be able to enforce the actual code that we have in the city, so that it doesn't continue to happen again and again and again. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
So is there one person who consistently is doing this, or is it?
It's multiple.
Okay.
And well, in the city, but in different, like from Broadway or that sort of thing.
Do you know what they're vending?
I've been seeing mostly the fruit, that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of things that you can do on the sidewalk. You can hand out information. It's a public place, but I can't issue a business license to somebody to sell things from the sidewalk. So that's what the issue we're running into. So when we do see them, we address it. Either our deputies know that they need to go outside of Estacada. If they're in Clackamas County, they don't seem to mind. But so we let them know they need to get picked up and they need to go outside the city, or code enforcement or law enforcement, or I have stopped and talked to them on multiple occasions to have them. So we just continue to move them out. I don't know where they're, who to contact in regard to where they're coming from to kind of get back to the base of that. So if anybody ever comes up with that, let me know. I think it's a region-wide situation. that is going on. And so it is a concern, but
Well, it'd just
do
be
push
nice
them
to
out.
be able to have a consequence instead of just going and having a talking to. The one example I remember specifically was when they were up by the school and they're literally covering the entire
Yeah, we can't do that.
corner with the ADA access, and it was completely blocked. And, you know, we have a code that says you can't do that.
Right.
So what can we do about that?
So
So,
we could probably cite them for doing business without a business license. So we have no idea where they're coming from.
They're all over Clackamas County. I've heard people say they've seen them in Salem. It's regional. I've seen them going towards Woodburn. All over the place. So we try to address it when it comes up. We haven't found a way to keep them from coming back. But we do every time it comes up.
Biggest concern, someone selling food and we just don't know who it is. So
My-
if they came and got a permit and just let us know who it is that's selling it and had the right place to be doing, that'd be fine.
Mhm.
Just you have someone that's selling a food product to the community and you don't know who it is. If somebody gets sick or something, or something bad happens to them, then you don't know who to go to see what happened.
I could look up, see if there's any way in the code to issue a kind of a daily permit like that. Our police chief was standing out with one person, trying to communicate to them that they need to get picked up and go, and people were literally stopping and buying fruit in front of them while the police chief was telling this person they needed to go. So if people stop buying the fruit, I think they would not come into town either, but they were buying fruit and making donations, and it's a quandary. So either I need to find out how to get them a license, or a citation. Probably will never see the payoff of that, but at least it would be a citation. So we'll continue to work on it. I don't have a solution to say tonight, though, that's going to say, I can't promise it'll never happen again, because they're very persistent.
the second thing was, during our goal setting, we had a whole lot of ideas, good ideas. And my question is, how do we instigate activity on that is there a way to put it on the agenda? Is there a way that we develop position papers or something like that as a council, that sort of thing? I'm specifically thinking about the waterfront and some of the real estate things we talked about, but just in general, there's a lot of ideas floating around. Well, how do we actually take action on them? Which I assume means it has to go on the agenda.
So we've applied for funds for a parks master plan amendment. A lot of the ideas regarding parks, we need to update them, and we need to get cost estimates, so we're charging appropriate SDCs. And also just it makes it more likely that we can get the larger state grants in order to build. So we can put that, we think we're going to get it. It looks good as far as us getting the funds for a master plan update.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll be applying for that. Actually, tonight in the consent agenda, one of those resolutions was to apply for a grant for the waterfront project. So that you kind of see things like we're doing work throughout the week and the month. And then you'll see little glimpses of that here as it comes to you for approval, or we give you reports on that quarterly. I usually update on progress that we're making on your goals. But I've never considered like doing position papers or things that would be, I'm not sure how to move forward with that.
I mean, maybe we could include an agenda item of what we don't want is to debate towards a decision on something that hasn't been public noticed, but there could be an agenda item where people could express interest in future agenda items, so that, we could then we could do an agenda item for kind of the waterfront park update, so that the community understands what steps are being taken. Kind of our thought was that would be part of this parks master plan, that you're going to have a lot of meetings. That's going to be on a lot of your agendas and other groups too. But we could do something preliminary.
Just keep things
Okay,
moving
and
forward.
finally, just thank you so much for the Civic Academy. That was outstanding. My intent was kind of a jump start to kind of get a better idea of how all the different parts of the city work together. But it was informative, it was interesting, and it was fun. So and met some nice people. So I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Don?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, quite frankly. I appreciate it, even if we don't like hearing what you have to say, or if it's something that's a critique. I think feedback is important from all sides, to be clear, so I'm welcome and open to it. Mrs. Julie, if I may, to address you, I am not ashamed of my decision, ma'am. Looking at my screen, I was looking at the agenda for an explanation to you, but I am not ashamed of my decision. I stand in it firmly with my convictions. And to also furthermore, I spent over an hour 2 weeks ago previously going over this very thing with everybody in open format conversation and listening first, not opening my mouth to talk, but listening. So I do appreciate what you have to say. And I do love that you're showing up and you're involved. I love that. Even if I don't like what you're chewing on me about, I love your involvement. I love your tenacity and I welcome it. And I thank you for it, quite frankly, because that's how you effectively do things in your community and you take action for what you believe in. So thank you for being rooted in your convictions as well.
I don't really have much to say. I want to thank the members of the DEI committee for the commitment they've made to this community. And I want you to know that it was appreciated and I respect you immensely.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's good to see the seats filled up. It's not very often that they are. So appreciate that. Welcome everyone to keep coming, keep giving us your feedback. Appreciate the city for being prepared for the meeting tonight. And want to thank Kennedy Jinks and Sladen for coming earlier. That was great. Get an update on the wastewater treatment facility and hope everyone has a good night.
Okay, Jerry.
I'm going to try to not make this too long, but first off, I want to thank staff. Another great packet, always great information. Thank you, Melanie, for our talks. I appreciate that. Just let me run my ideas and my rants past you. I appreciate that very much. I want to thank everyone that came out in support of DEI. I don't agree with the decision that was made by this council to get rid of DEI. I think that it is a need in this community, especially a committee with committed members who no one could show what harm they were doing to this community. They weren't doing any of the things that, the national rhetoric was saying. They were working towards community engagement, which is one of our council goals. So I want to personally thank every single member of that DEI committee from its formation to today, no, just everyone that was involved in that committee, city staff that were involved in that committee. I really appreciate the work that was done, and I really appreciate seeing all the support come out, even though this council didn't listen. I appreciate you guys, and hopefully we can move forward with some form of community engagement and accessibility program in the future, hopefully this year. Thank you, guys.
I don't have much tonight. I want to thank the audience for coming out, good, bad, or indifferent. I think DEI made a valid point, lots of valid points. This is not an argument about whether you made a point or not. This is not an argument whether we care. Obviously we care, but we've been told we don't. It's kind of a shame because I don't think anybody up here doesn't see DEI as having a place per se, but the way it is, maybe not. Is there going to be something later on? Probably is. But the condemning on either side for what it is or is not is what the problem is. We condemn, according to what you've seen up here, you say we don't understand you and we condemn you. Or you condemn us because we're not listening, right? You're saying we're not listening. We're putting our heads down. We don't have any respect for what you say, so we're hiding our faces because we're ashamed, is what I heard. I don't think that's the case at all. I really don't. I heard every word you said. And yes, I'm saddened by the attack that I receive when I'm not here on Facebook and everything else. If you read that, you would wonder. You really would. But that doesn't change the fact that I think every one of you have a valid reason for being in this room tonight. And making your example is great. That's what I love to see. That's what it's all about. And I thank you for coming. I thank staff for their job tonight. They did a great job. And we'll look forward to seeing you next round. And you have a great week. So thank you. All right. I think that's everybody. And we're going to go into executive session. So the Estacada City Council will now meet in executive session for the purpose of evaluation of the city manager. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660, which allows the council to meet in executive session to review and evaluate the employment related performance of the chief officer of any public body. Representative of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representative of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of executive session, we will return and open session, welcome the audience back into the room. So thank you. All right, we are now in executive session. I'm going to close the executive session and go back into the city council. All right, Mike. Oh, yeah.
So we'll bring back a recommendation or a
We'll
proposal.
do a recommendation, and then if we have a motion to adjourn, then we can adjourn the meeting.
Okay. I will adjourn the city council. And it is open now. We are
All right,
off.
thank you.
Is that right? Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.